what does gutsy mean to you?
Wholesome, authentic, and just allowing yourself to show up not broken. And I think what therapy, my concept of therapy is reminding you that you are whole and that all these wounds and triggers don't make you a broken person. At the end, you are complete and worthy and deserving of all the love and grace simply because you exist. So when I think of gutsy, I think of being whole and being worthy and deserving.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. You know those moments when you're in a conversation, or maybe you're even in a full-blown argument, and suddenly you realize this has gotten out of hand and I'm not even really sure why I'm triggered. But all I know is that everything in me wants to shut down or run. Yeah, that's where today's conversation begins. I'm joined by therapist and relationship coach Tannaz Hosseinpour from Minutes on Growth, and we're talking about how to navigate conflict, communicate with clarity, and build deeper, more secure relationships without losing yourself in the process. So whether it's with your partner, your team, or maybe your own inner voice, this episode is going to help you shift the way that you show up, especially when things get heated. Tannaz is a certified relationship coach, psychotherapist, and the voice behind Minutes on Growth. With a background in conflict resolution and over 8 years in personal development, she helps individuals build secure relationships through nervous system healing, inner child work, and emotional clarity. One of my favorite parts about this conversation is when Tannaz taught us how to navigate conflict with emotional regulation and relational awareness. And this helps both people, whoever's in this, heightened situation, leave the conversation feeling heard, respected, and understood. So let's get into this because this is just brilliant information that I think every human needs to have access to. Hello, my friend Naz. Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love that you're a relationship coach. We've not had this conversation on the Gutsy Podcast for quite a while. So I know that this is going to resonate. I'm kind of curious, before we even dig into like all the nitty gritty, was there a defining fight in a relationship that you realized that something had to change?
In my own relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily my own, but my background was in dispute resolution. And so it was a big question mark for me of like, how do we go from, I love you to now I hate you, or even like in a corporate level or in an international government level. We don't enter relationships most of the time with the intent of it ending, right? So there is always a vision, a hope for it. But somewhere along the line, ruptures cause the relationship, the dynamic to end. So that was a big question mark for me. And it was always so surprising for me of why don't we learn how to build relationships in school? We learn algebra, we learn geometry, and all the other good stuff. But if you think about it, it's like our parents send off to school and they tell us, go make friends. How? Then, problems happen and ruptures happen, but no one really sits down and explains to us how we can repair those ruptures. And then we grow up and we're supposed to date and then get married and build relationships with our coworkers, but we don't have the skills and the insights and the tools. So it's like we're really swimming in the deep end without knowing how. And that can be really frustrating. And then as a result of that frustration, we build narratives that, marriage is so hard and friendships aren't real and all men cheat and all the other limiting narratives that we have around us arise as a result of the frustration of not having the tools to navigate it with a little bit more ease and grace. So that was my defining moment.
Yeah, when you said like we're told to go make friends, but how?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never really thought about it like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, how do you go strike up a conversation? How do you find similarities? How do you even just take that first step in? So what would you say are some of the core foundational skills that we are missing or that really help to build those kind of foundational relationship?
So this is now based on my experience. So I kind of started relationship coaching 8 years ago, and then I went back to school for my third postgraduate degree in counseling psychotherapy and kind of becoming a couples therapist. And so I've seen over these past 8 years that there are certain reoccurring patterns. One is in conflict resolution, not knowing how to fight fair. I think that's a big one because again, fighting has such a bad connotation in society, but it's actually when a couple comes to me and says like we never fight, that's not a good sign. It often means that someone is abandoning parts of themselves or their needs to maintain the status quo. So it's not the fight that's the issue, it's how we fight and ultimately how we repair. So I would say top on the list is conflict resolution. Then we have, of course, communication. How do we communicate in a way that is non-critical so that the other person doesn't get defensive, so that contempt and disrespect don't start to build up? That's another one. And then a third one that I also think we don't think about as often is how to build intimacy in different ways, emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, experiential outside of, because when we say intimacy we often think physical or sexual, but I'm saying let's expand that definition to other categories because again, there's this narrative of if he wanted to, he would have. But most times I realize he doesn't even know how to. And I think that's a big one of if it wasn't modeled to us in our family of origin, how are we supposed to learn to show up for people and to express these intimate feelings in these different categories?
Mm, yeah. So I'd love to go deeper on these if you're cool with that,
Let's do
because
it.
I think that there's just so much meatiness in this. So this first one is the basis of our conversation today, which is how to fight fair.
Mhm.
I mean, when energies are high and opinions are strong and the situation is heightened, man, we can go into like battle zone here, right?
Mhm.
So talk to me a little bit about conflict resolution. What are some of the traits that we need? What are you seeing? How do we fight fair?
Okay. I'm going to give a little bit of biology in a science class mini session, but it's really important because when there is stress, when there is conflict, what happens is our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for rational thinking and problem solving, goes offline. And instead, the amygdala, the fear center, comes online. So even if you want to resolve it, your body is shutting down and saying no. I think that's such an important realization to have of if I'm seeing I'm dysregulated or my partner is dysregulated, now is not the time. Despite, again, I know there's always the intention of I want to repair as soon as possible, but we have to realize that it's a mind-body connection and the mind and the body has to be a part of the process. So that's why pausing, taking breaks is so, so important. Research is showing us that when the body is physiologically flooded, we need a minimum of 20 minutes for it to kind of regulate itself. And so we need time, we need that pause. And it's important that during that pause, we do activities, engage in activities that help us regulate. Now, whether that's going for a walk, shaking, I love shaking, just 30 seconds, 60 seconds, allowing yourself to freely shake, taking ice cubes, rubbing it on your wrist or the back of your neck, drinking warm water or cold water, anything that kind of engages your senses, singing, humming, taking a shower. It's so important that in those 20 minutes that you're taking a time out, that you're not thinking about the argument, but rather on how to bring your body back into a state of safety. So I would say that's the top most important. Now, what tends to happen is If there is a partner that has an anxious attachment style and I just called out timeout, they're going to get even more dysregulated. Where are you going? You're abandoning me. Don't go. And I get that. And that's why it's super important for the person calling timeout to A, offer reassurance that the fight doesn't mean that they don't love you anymore. I love you. I just need to go for a walk. I just to take a time out. And the golden piece is the second part of let's come back at dinner and talk about this. Let's come back tomorrow at lunch in 20 minutes. You are telling them that we will return to this. So do not fear me walking out. I will come back in. I cannot tell you what a game changer that second part is. And it cultivates trust. And when you do come back, and you can come back and say, hey, I know I said let's talk about it in 20 minutes, but I'm still feeling really dysregulated. Can we talk about it at dinner? That builds trust. So now my nervous system starts to feel safer at the sight of you leaving because it knows you're going to come back. So I would say these two are really important. And then, of course, giving your partner the benefit of the doubt, which is really good. Remembering that it's us versus the problem, it's not me versus you. So that mindset, what I see often is couples lawyering up as if we're in court and they're like pulling out receipts and you said this at this o'clock and like and so remembering it's me and you versus the problem. Like let's say it's the holiday season. So it's me and you versus finances. It's me and you versus the in-laws. So it's us as a team versus the unit. And then to listen to understand, not listen to respond. Often we're listening to respond. And we're like, okay, I can't wait for him to finish talking and I'm going to say X, Y, and Z. But really, again, remembering we're on the same team and what's best for the team. And lastly, I would say, I always use this analogy. When we enter into a relationship, we all bring like a baggage with us, a luggage. So let's visualize an actual luggage. And we come into the living room and we open this luggage, and there's like all our wounds and triggers and soft spots, raw spots in this luggage. I'm going to pull one out and I'm going to give it to my partner. I'm going to feel vulnerable enough to share that one piece. If my partner takes that and is really sensitive with that and really honors that, then I'm going to pull out a second piece from my luggage. But if we start to argue and he holds that against me and he uses that against me, I'm going to take it, put it back in my luggage, close my luggage, and walk out. And by walk out, I mean vulnerably shutting myself down. I'm taking away that vulnerability. So I think it's so important that we are mindful of each other's sensitivities and we are sensitive with this privilege that has been given to us and we nurture it and we don't throw it in their face.
Yeah, so important. How do you navigate that situation if you understand that, but maybe your partner doesn't? So you're wanting to be vulnerable, you're wanting to share these things with you, but like it's not being reciprocated. How do you communicate, or how do you handle that?
Right. So when it comes to communication, I think it's super important that we talk about our experience and we give insight into our experience because people aren't mind readers. And, siblings in the same household are different, let alone people from different households. So how I view vulnerability might be so different than how you view it. And so it's our responsibility to kind of give insight to our partner and to our internal world. So again, focusing on I statements, I'm noticing that when I bring X up, the reception that I'm getting from it is making me shut down. I'm curious. Can we talk about it? Curiosity saves relationships, assumptions break them. So if we are just willing to sit and say, hey, when X happens, I feel this, and this is what I need. And the third part is really important, giving the person, hey, here's a love map of how I would love to be loved, right? Again, we're setting our partner up for success. So when I share my deep insights with you and it doesn't get acknowledged, I feel unseen. And there's this deep desire within me to shut down, and I don't want to shut down. I'd like us to talk about how we can create a space where we both feel heard, where we both feel valued, What are your thoughts? Let's brainstorm together. So, really leaning in to how it's making you feel and giving them insight. And again, giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're not doing this intentionally. Maybe they just don't have the skill because, again, no one was taught it. Most people were not taught it unless they saw it modeled in their family of origin. And so, for me, maybe I have my muscle in that area is a little bit more trained because of the line of work I do. And so I have to realize, okay, my partner is just learning the art of curiosity, just learning the art of reciprocity. Can I be gentle and patient as he's cultivating this muscle and this skill?
Yeah. Another thing that I see with women, we do this a lot, is we think about something that we want or we need,
Hmm.
and we assume that our partner should know it.
Yeah.
And so there's a break in the communication there. And now we're building up resentment or anger or frustration or insert whatever emotion. And they're completely like, they have no freaking clue.
Hmm.
What do we need to shift in the communication department to avoid that unnecessary tension?
Right. So I love this one because I'm guilty of this one too. And I think it's so important to remember that we should be our biggest advocates when it comes to our own needs. So no one knows my needs better than I do. And so it's my responsibility to kind of voice them. Now, how I voice them again is so important. Hey, like when when you buy me flowers, I feel so seen, right? Ooh, light bulb in the man's head. Like, she feels seen when I do it. I should just do more of that, right? So it's like, again, we're giving a love map of this is how I would like to be loved. Or I can share an example of Christmas many years ago. I think it was the first Christmas. My partner and I were friends for 11 years before we became romantically involved. But so I thought, again, an assumption that, okay, after 11 years, you should know me and you should know what kind of person I am for Christmas. Now, come Christmas, he brings this box of big flowers from the Forever Roses and he spent a fortune on them. And I just looked at it and I was so disappointed. I'm like, flowers for Christmas? Like, but in his mind, it was the best gift. He was so excited. And then I realized I never actually said like what kind of gift I would like to have. Like, if I had just said, like, I feel the most excited when I receive books, okay. A, you would have saved a lot of money, and B, you would have given me what I wanted. And so I think it's important to remember that no one's a mind reader. And again, how can we express it in a way of instead of saying, you never buy me books, oh, I feel so appreciated when I receive books as gifts. Say, like the way we're portraying that message, one is critical of you're not doing enough, and one is,
Mm.
hey, if you want to make me feel seen, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, that's a big shift. Instead of pointing the finger and you didn't do this and you didn't do that, which just that's like throwing gasoline on the fire, right? And then they shut down and nobody feels good and it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick. It becomes this tension point in your relationship. And I know from personal experience too, until I made the shift, it we it's like we're like, well, they should just know
Mhm.
like they're our partner, they live with us, or we've been in a relationship for X amount of time, like they should just know. And it's like they just don't, like they don't know until we teach them or show them or communicate it, and then it becomes easy.
Yeah. Then it just becomes a part of the autopilot, right? So again, I love how you said it's like we play a big part in the quality of our relationship. So I always say we are 100% responsible for our 50%. So how
Mm.
are we showing up for our 50%? Are we um, are we setting our partners up for success or to lose? Because sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not going to bring it up. So he messes up and then I'll show him. And then here I would just gently suggest, why don't we pause and ask ourselves, why do we want our partner to fail? What part of me feels familiar with that, feels safe with that? It's not logical, but it's emotional, and emotional wounds go deeper. So, you know, is there an underlying belief that men suck or all men are going to mess up and relationships don't work. And there's that self-sabotaging element in the back. Again, we choose familiar chaos over unfamiliar peace, even if it's not logical. And most of the time it's not. So I urge us to go inside and say, okay, why am I standing in the way of my own happiness?
Yeah. I found this for myself. I'll share. It was really a challenge to receive.
Hmm.
It was a receiving issue because forever growing up, I was not receiving. It was familiar to me to be let down.
Yeah.
It was familiar to be on my own. It was familiar to have to take care of my own needs and not have anybody to reciprocate that in any capacity, from particularly from parents in this situation. So, when my husband and I have been together for 26 years now at time of
Wow.
recording. So we've gone through a couple rounds of our relationship, getting together at 14 and 16. You learn a lot about yourselves and one another along the way. But for me, I found like it was really about being comfortable receiving
Hmm.
because I had my walls up and I was the strong one and I didn't need this and all that, but I really did. I just wasn't comfortable receiving, so I would unintentionally like create issues
Hmm.
that weren't there because that was familiar chaos.
Yeah.
So for me it was a lot of regulation around like, hey, it's safe to receive and he wants to give it. I have to give him the even playing field to allow him to.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's such a common struggle that we have as women also. Like we've been kind of conditioned to be the givers, right? To always be giving parts of ourselves and our resources and our time. I see a lot of women, myself included, struggling with receiving. Think of it even like as a compliment. When someone compliments you, do you allow yourself to say, "Ooh, thank you for noticing"? Or it's like when someone says, "Oh, I love your shirt." I love your headband, right? We're quickly sending something back. It's like we can't allow ourselves to hold space for that and to just hold on to it without feeling the need to give it back. So even with the compliment, you can just ask yourself, like, am I the type of person that will throw one back? Or I love this sentence, thank you for noticing. Can I become comfortable? And you can practice with that small changes. Thank you for noticing.
If you've been looking for a space, a community, like minded women, an area where you can practice this type of inner work and communication in real time without being judged, without having to have it all perfect, then I invite you to come join the Gutsy Collective. This is a space for high achieving women building new foundations and making small, consistent moves that matter. This is truly a safe space where you can practice being seen, being heard, and being supported by other women that are on a journey similar to yours. This is where you get to gain the skills that give you the confidence to make that bold move that you know you can't stop thinking about. Changing a job, starting a business, shifting something in your relationship, or maybe strengthening the relationship you have with yourself. The Gutsy Collective is the space where you prepare to make that next bold move. Get things rolling in your life again, my friend. Go to lauraora.com and click on the Gutsy Collective to join today. Yeah. I'm a big Friends fan. My
Hmm.
husband and I watch Friends every single night, and I love Phoebe for this
Hmm.
because anytime she gets a compliment, like someone will be like, "Oh, you look amazing," and she's like, "I know," and I'm just like, "Man, she just rocks it." Or my favorite Phoebe line of all time is, she's like, I'd love to help you, but I don't want to." Like she's just like brutally honest, and I mean that's brutally honest, right? We don't have
Yeah.
to go to that extreme, but I just think it's a good example of like, hey, it's actually okay to receive something and sit with it. And the only way you're going to be comfortable receiving is by building that
Hmm.
familiarity in your body in those little micro moments through your hair looks great today, or I love your sweater, or oh my gosh, does your dress have pockets? Yeah, those are the little tiny moments where like catch yourself.
Hmm.
And then from the relationship standpoint, just from my own personal experience, it's like I have to communicate what I need to give him the chance to fulfill it. And
Yes.
it happens in these little tiny moments of these conversations, which boils down to communication. I mean, what you're sharing today, like it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to do this. It takes an incredible amount of self-awareness. And I
Hmm.
almost wonder if that's even the level that we need to work on first
Hmm.
before we can even dig into this stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. This is my belief that relationships are 50% relational skills, which are all the things we're talking about, but 50% inner work. And I think they go hand in hand, parallel to one another, because I can only know you to the depth that I know myself. I can only love you to the depth that I love myself. There's a beautiful quote: your task is not to seek for love, but to find all the barriers that exist within you that are preventing you from love, by Rumi, Persian poet. So that's the important thing, is like going within and saying, okay, where are these wounds? Where are these triggers? Where are these stories, these beliefs, these narratives, these habits? How are they serving me? How are they not? So most often, we're doing couples therapy, but the people in like the parties are also doing individual therapy, and they kind of go hand in hand because, as you said, it's like I need to know myself to know how I'm showing up in this relationship.
Yeah. It That awareness is everything. I think
Mhm.
in every situation awareness is everything because
Mhm.
going back to this conflict resolution, if things are starting to get heated, you're starting to get dysregulated or you're entering it dysregulated. If you don't have the awareness of what that is or what that feels like,
Yeah.
we're just going, we're throwing down at that point, right? It becomes me against you.
Hmm.
And so how do you recommend, like, even recognizing what's something that we can like tangibly look for or feel to notice, like, ooh, hey, there's what Tanaz was talking about. I need to pause in this moment instead.
So it really depends on what you feel comfortable doing. But like, the aura ring, your watch, or if you just want to get something that like kind of shows your blood pressure, these are like indicators. Your blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up. Noticing that. If you feel, because I have clients that are like, I don't realize I'm getting dysregulated until I'm like way on the other end of the line. So these are great indicators of, okay, if, for example, the heart rate goes over 100, pause. If I notice that I can feel my heart beat, pause. If I notice I'm starting to sweat, pause. Getting red, pause. Going like that. When we're curling our fists, naturally, when this happens, I'm like, oh, state of dysregulation. Pause. So just becoming very familiar with your body's cues, and everyone's body is going to respond differently, but just being familiar with it. Like sit down, and I know this might seem like a silly activity, but I want you to become familiar with your body parts. Look at it, see how it feels. How does your touch feel right now? Is it usually cold? Then okay, if it gets hot, is that a sign that I'd like to get curious with? If I'm usually warm and I get cold, is that a sign I can get curious with? So we want to become familiar with our body. And also that urge to be right is also a great sign of, okay, if I'm feeling, oh no, I need to put this person in their place, pause. Because again, we're going into court and you're on the same team. You wouldn't want your team member, like in basketball, to fall down and break their leg. If they break their leg, the team loses. It's the same thing. So when you're feeling that urge, that wounded child inside of you is throwing a tantrum, pause and go within and reflect and soothe the wounded child first, the inner child first. That requires immediate attention, not the other person. I mean, if you think about it, if there's a child next to you and an adult and the child is throwing a tantrum, most probably we're going to tend to the child. It's the exact same thing. It's just the child is within us.
I love it. I love the physical cues. These are very tangible things that we can look for, we can feel. We've got great technology that can
Hmm.
assist you if things get a little off the rails. But I also really appreciate that you brought up the wounded child, because that's really what's happening.
Hmm.
It's a part of us that's not been fulfilled, has not been seen, not been heard, not been nurtured, not been loved. And it's her or him or that person inside of
Hmm.
us that's saying, like, hey, I need attention right now.
Hmm.
or I'm going into protection mode. I need to protect this person.
100%, 100%. I think, parts work, one of the modalities I love to use is parts work because of this. It's like allowing ourselves to see these different parts that are being hurt. And, you know, every communication every behavior is a form of communication with children. It's the same thing with us too. And when I'm in a session with couples and I notice like suddenly, they tense, there's a trigger and there's tension, I notice the adult versions of them leave the room and the wounded child at whatever age that is comes in. And I now am seeing two kids fighting with each other. And I
Mm,
ask them to pause and I ask them, okay, look at yourself, the way you're talking, your body language. What age does this remind you of? And they can most of the time pinpoint to an age and say, it's this. I'm like, okay, what do we need to say to the 9-year-old that felt unseen by mom or by dad? And once we soothe that, suddenly it's like a weight lifted off their shoulders and they can lean into the relationship because our partners are mirrors to all our triggers and wounds from our childhood and even our
yeah.
adolescent life as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. My inner teen tends to show up in those types of situations. She's
Same.
she's she's feisty. The last beautiful piece here kind of reminds me of repair,
Hmm.
and the intimacy. Intimacy kind of feels like repair to me as well.
Hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So let's shift into the repair mode, right? When things have calmed down, we had the communication, we're in like, okay, where do we go from here? And then building that intimacy that comes beyond that.
Yeah. So when I think of repair, one thing that always comes to mind is this notion of, but it wasn't my intention to hurt you. And here I'd like to suggest that while intention matters, impact matters just as much. So most of the time, we don't intend to hurt our partners because we love them. We might not like them in the moment, but we love them. And so, yes, intent matters, but so does impacts. And so we want to take accountability for the impact of our actions. I'd like to apologize for the impact of my actions. There's no if, there's no but. The moment we say, I mean, but you should, it's like it
Mm,
negates everything you said prior to that. If you had responded differently, I wouldn't have to do this, is now you saying that, I my behavior is not in my control. It's your fault, right? So we're releasing accountability. So repair, the most important element of repair is to take accountability, to apologize with a full stop, right? And how can we repair this rupture? It's a simple question, but it opens the space up for, okay, I guess I just need a hug right now. Or I need us to, like, if we had a rupture over the dishes, maybe part of repair is I need us to come up with a plan where I'm not feeling so overwhelmed with the household chores. It needs to feel fair. So maybe there's like a practical component to it as well. But so we want to look into the emotions and then we want to look into the practical if there is that element. But again, taking accountability, creating space for it and not going into if and but. So I would say that's the repair element. And here I might add, sometimes with an argument, if it's a very sensitive argument, you might have to take multiple timeouts. There are topics that, for example, my partner and I have taken over 10 timeouts to be able to complete because every time we talk about it, we're getting dysregulated and we're taking a break. Let's normalize that. It's okay. You don't need to figure it all out tonight. There is tomorrow as well. So just give yourself time to figure it out in a state of regulation. And then sometimes, we can repair immediately too. If like I'll say something mean, I'll be like, I'm sorry. I was just really critical right now. That wasn't my intention. Can we try this conversation again? Right?
mm.
Sometimes I can catch myself in the moment, sometimes. And sometimes no, it's like 3 days later, I have to come back and be like, hey, I was reflecting in the shower and I was really critical the other day. I'd like to take accountability for that. So it's even the micro ruptures as well as the macro ruptures. When it comes to intimacy, um, again, asking ourselves, how does our partner like to be loved. So, for example, let's say your love language. I'm not talking about like the traditional love language. I'm talking about intimacy love languages. Maybe yours is experiential intimacy. You feel so seen when we go and do something together. Or maybe it's intellectual intimacy when we talk about these deep conversations. So, becoming familiar with the different types of intimacy, so physical, sexual, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, as well as experiential, and leaning into that intentionally. If my partner wants me to fill that spiritual intimacy tank for him, great. Maybe I can make some time for us to meditate or do yoga together. Or if it's emotional, maybe we can sit down and talk about the emotions. If it's physical, hugging. If it's sexual, then it's, sexual touch, of course, with consent. So really being familiar with these six types of tanks. I always say, like, imagine you are a car and you have six fuel tanks. Some of these tanks you'll want your partner to fill, and some of them you'll want others to come in, community, friends, because to expect your partner to fill all six all the time is an unrealistic expectation in this day and age where our attention is being pulled by multiple different work, kids, so many different categories. Sometimes we'll come home and I'll notice, oh, my partner is feeling really drained. Okay, so he can't fill this tank for me right now, this emotional tank. Maybe I should call my girlfriend. Or he can't fill that intellectual. Maybe I should call my book club girls. So really, that's where community plays a part in that repair process as well, because yes, partner fills some, but also community fills the other.
I love that the reframe that intimacy is so many other things other than
Mhm.
sexual.
Yeah.
I mean, the brain just immediately goes there, but having that intellectual part of you
Mhm.
fulfilled by a book club
Mhm.
or a class that you're taking or a community that you're involved in is just as powerful. And I
Mhm.
can't help but think that I know so many of the women that I have worked with in the past are like, I don't even know what I want or need because I've just been so kind of offline of myself or disconnected, or I've just not had the chance to really find what I need because I've been so busy my whole
Mhm.
life. So where how do you suggest finding what you need to be able to communicate what you need?
Right. I mean, you just said it, the body is offline. So the first step is to get the body online, like working with a therapist that maybe works with like somatic modalities to kind of just bring you back into your body. What does that feel like? Again, that simple activity of sitting and like just touching your body parts, looking at the sensation, engaging your five senses, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, a great way to bring yourself into the here and now, because often we're either in the future or we're in the past. Rarely are we here in the now. The breath is another great way to bring us into the present moment. So I would say first bringing yourself into your body, cultivating safety into the body, and then the body is so smart. Your the seat of the soul holds so much wisdom. Those answers will come to you as a natural result of the body feeling safe to bring those messages to the surface.
That's emotional regulation in its finest, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't receive when you're heightened, when
No,
you're offline, when you're shut down. It's like the creativity channels are just like, I'll wait.
exactly.
I'll wait. The doors are closed, but you get regulated and you start working with your body and instead of against it, all those answers that you're racking your brain against they just start to appear. It's like it's magic.
It really is. It really is. It's like the body is a vessel. I love to use analogies because I think it helps paint a picture. But like if you visualize a vessel, we want this vessel to be clear enough for so light can flow through it. Everything can arise and subside. What tends to happen is an emotion comes, and because we've labeled emotions as bad, let's say anger shows up, instead of allowing anger to just arise and subside and for us to transmute it, we'll bring in a secondary emotion. We'll start to judge that anger, right? So now anger is kind of stuck in the vessel, and over time, all of these thoughts and emotion get stuck in this, and nothing can flow through it anymore. So, and unless we go in and we start to do the inner work and we start to declutter the body, It's not going to go online because, again, it's like so much blockages are there. And ultimately, the ultimate goal, I think, of life is to have a clear vessel that can receive and give easily through it.
Amazing. Tanaz, this is life-changing work. I know it and I'm certain of it. And I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you. So what's the best place to connect with you?
So I'm on all the socials and on my website is Minutes on Growth. I love to create content, very easy, digestible content. So whether you follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, there's a lot of content there that you can share with your partners as well on like how to fight fair and all the wonderful topics that we talked about. On my website, I have a bunch of free meditations you can download. I have a free ebook on nervous system regulation. As many tools as I can, you'll find it on the website.
Perfect. And my final question is, what does gutsy mean to you?
Wholesome, authentic, and just allowing yourself to show up not broken. And I think what therapy, my concept of therapy is reminding you that you are whole and that all these wounds and triggers don't make you a broken person. At the end, you are complete and worthy and deserving of all the love and grace simply because you exist. So when I think of gutsy, I think of being whole and being worthy and deserving.
This is definitely one of those episodes where you go back and you listen to it a time or two. And might I even suggest sharing this with your partner? If you were listening today so that you could strengthen how you show up in your relationship, one of the best things that you can do is share your tools and your resources with your partner so that you're coming at this together, not at one another. Your homework for the day is to click on the three dots or go to share this episode, hit copy, go to your text messages, and send it to the person that comes to mind. While you're at it, let's be friends. You can come find me on all the social platforms. My handle is @thatlauraora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.